You may remember from previous videos that I spent like a week getting this shop all nice and cleaned up so that I can start putting the plywood panels on the walls. I got the entire thing done, and then this happened. We got a blizzard last night. We got about 8 inches of snow, and you could see that the wind is blowing really hard out there. We knew this was coming, so I went to the store and got a bunch of materials for working on the tiny house over there and for working on the walls over here. This stuff is for, well, it's actually for both. And then I had to move some vehicles in here so that we can get plowed and stuff. So I had to bring other stuff like this into here. This is for the tiny house. These ceiling boards are for the tiny house. And a bunch of this stuff is for the tiny house. So what happened is I changed my mind. I want to put the plywood on this entire wall. So all of this stuff has to get out of here. So what I'm going to do is get this place cleaned up one more time, and then we're going to start on the plywood for the walls. All right, there we go, all cleaned up. It's still very cluttered in here, but until I get the walls up, I really don't have any place to put this stuff. So let's get going on this. The first thing I'm going to do is figure out exactly where my posts are, which is fairly easy. I can do it with my finger there, figure out both sides of that, and then get the center. And I need to measure the center, and then 4 feet, 8 feet, and so on. We have another post right here. The posts are 8 foot on center, and I want the edges of the panels to go dead center in the middle of each post. And what these panel backers are going to be is just chunks of 2x4 that's going to go from one girt to the next girt above it and get pocket screwed into place. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 of them for each location. And again, they're going to be spaced 4 feet apart. Once I get those in, I'll worry about snapping a line along the top. I'm going to throw the laser level on it and get the line all the way around the room and make my marks in the corner. Then I'll snap a chalk line, and that's the line that the panels are going to butt up against. They're going to be anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch off the floor. Let me quickly show you how these walls are constructed. We have a laminated post, which is 3 2x6s. Those are all laminated together. And then on the outside of the building, there's these 2x6 girts, which are nailed to the post. And then on the inside, except for this wall, they are 2x4 girts. These are 2x6 because this wall is going to have some heavy duty stuff going on in it. So right here, that is the tin for the outside. And this right here are insul hold strips. That's what's holding up this insulation. And then the inside girts go right over the insulation. I'll be filling in these empty areas. This one, as soon as the wiring's done, that one is wiring and blocking for the lights outside. And we got another one over there that's going to get filled in. Well, that'll get filled in as I do the wall over there. And there's actually another open area right here. That's going to get filled in as soon as I finish up that water right there. There's water running up through the attic and then down there. And it also goes up and down into the garage area over there. Let me show you that real quick and we'll get started on this. This is the garage area. It's a total mess. It's just like a staging area for other stuff right now. but we're going to be finishing this up in a couple months. But you can see the outside construction here. Got trusses going across, and the triple 2x6s and the 2x6 girts. That's house wrap on the other side of that, and then tin. In the end, this is very strong. We got a 16 on center wall here, and then there's joists above this area so that I could put the tin ceiling in there. Got temporary lights. We're going to be putting in the permanent lights probably in 2 weeks or so. That's going to be an interesting video as well. All right, let me get this temporary cover. I'm waiting on some of this to be done so I could put the door in. So lots of stuff's waiting on other stuff. But these blocking pieces, that should be pretty straightforward. And I got to go around the window as well. This is going to be pretty interesting, but we're not going to be getting to that for a little bit. So let me start cutting these blocking pieces, and I'll show you what that's all about. Okay, so what I'm doing is taking my combination square and kind of poking through the insulation a little bit and getting the exact edges of these posts. There's only 3 of them. That's the second one, and that's the third one, and then we have the 2 corners. Now I'm going to mark the center of this, clamp my tape to 12 inches, and then measure over to 5 feet, which will actually be 4 feet, and then make my mark here. I'm going to do that on all the other ones. That will be the dead center of where the panels are going to go. Then I'm going to take my big Stabila plate level and get my plumb lines. Okay, we have 4 5/8, so 2 5/16 is the center. Beautiful. All right. Burn a foot and go to 5 feet, and we have our 4 foot mark. Now the next one is going to go this way. Every single one of these was different because these posts, you can have like 1/4 inch gaps between the boards. They're not anywhere near perfect. I have video of building this entire shop, the entire building, so if you want to see that, you can head over to Planet Mojo and watch it. Alright, now we'll get our plumb lines in and start cutting some wood. Alright, now I'm going to get a level line. This is, I believe it's 7 feet long when it's retracted, and it extends to 14 feet. So we're going to go right on our line and check our bubble, which is real close right where it is. Tap that around a little bit. And get our lines. Okay, I was looking at this window here and trying to figure out the blocking. The blocking is going to be fairly simple, but what I wanted to do was create a box in here about 1/4 of an inch away from this inside lip, and then get foam in there, and I want that to come out to the face of the plywood, which is going to be out here, so it would be way out here. Then I can trim it flush and round the edge, and I'll have a really nice clean box there. But I'm trying to figure out how to do that and still insulate between that box and here. I actually don't really have to. We have this insulation here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think on that a little bit. Regardless, I was also looking at some of this stuff, and I gotta finish that up. I actually have to get this water connected in here. I need to find my drawings on that. It looks like I can get one panel in here before I have to do a whole bunch of figuring. I'm not sure if I'm going to split that up into a bunch of videos or if I'm just going to take a bunch of time on it. But for now, this part is relatively easy. These are just the center lines for where that backing goes. Now I just got to get some dimensions, and hopefully I don't have a whole bunch of different dimensions. If the pieces are a little off, say I cut all of the pieces for this row and some are off by a 1/16, I'll be able to trim them down to size even with the pocket screws in here, because I'm setting the pocket screws about a 1/2 inch in, so I got plenty of meat there. I'm using construction screws with the pocket screws. So let me get a whole bunch of dimensions here, and I'll get back with you after that. All right, I sorted out my lumber. These 3 right here are the best of the lot. Those are going to be used for the window frame. The rest of this stuff is going to be the plywood backers. This stuff, oh, it might have a curve along its length or a bow along its length. This one is pretty darn good, but it's going to be cut into 20-some inch chunks, so it should be pretty close to perfect once it's done, but it's not going to matter anyways. All it is a backer for the edge of the plywood. I got my list right here. We have 9 rows, so I'm going to make 9 piles. I think I'll just stack it up right here, and we'll cut that window stuff to length and rip it down to 3 inches. And once we have all of that done, I have to cut a ton of pocket screw holes. So let's get going and get this stuff cut to length. Before we start, let's just show the before. Got some sawdust up there, but not a whole lot down here. All right, there's a look at the sawdust over here, and that's what we got from drilling those pocket screws. I did that yesterday. This is, I believe, day 3. We got one heck of a blizzard starting up here. We got 2 inches already. The wind is at about 10 miles an hour right now, but it's going to get up to 40 miles an hour, and we're going to have 15 inches of snow. Real nasty storm going out there. Perfect day to be indoors putting up plywood backers. All right, I got a bunch in already. I was going to work my way all the way over to here where the light's better, and then put one in completely and show you some tips on doing this with construction screws. But we ran into a problem here. This board has warped out, and one of the tips that I was going to give you involves wood like this. So let's fix that, and then I'll get back to you over here. Oh, and I also showed this, just putting a cleat on there. If you're working alone, a dead man like that really comes in handy. It's going to be flush no matter what if you screw something tight to it like that, so you can get a couple screws in, and then once you do have a couple screws in, you got a free hand to align stuff. Okay, let's get that fixed. Okay, I'll go right here. What you do is just get your hammer on there and then pull it flush like that. Let me grab a screw. Alright, we'll get 2 screws in there right away. Unfortunately, my screw pocket is on the wrong side. Got quite the blizzard going on out there. Gotta be kind of careful with these construction screws not to overdrive them, because the bugle head will split out the wood. Beautiful. That's all it needs. Alright, I'll get back with you when we put a full piece in. Alright, I'm on one of the middle ones now, which means it doesn't have a post behind it. I'll show you how I get these pocket screws in without the board jumping all over the place. Well, usually. Get it where you want it, and then put a screw down the middle, but just get it so it starts into the wood you're going into, and then do the same on the other side, or on one of the sides. And then this third one, can adjust that a little bit. And the third one, you can drive home. Just make sure that you don't drive them too far and blow out the front. Very strong, and it's nice and flush. Another thing to make sure that you do is go through the screw hole, because if you just put it in there like on an angle, it'll still go through the wood, but it'll go through at whatever angle you have it, and that can pull your wood out of whack real easy. Beautiful. This one is right over a post, and technically it doesn't have to be tight fitting. But if it is tight fitting, then it's going to help transfer the weight on any of these girts all the way down to the ground. So may as well have it nice and tight. Then on these, I'm screwing it right to the post. And the post is treated, so you have to use treated screws, or screws for treated wood. And my center line, I just put that all the way. And I don't have to put the screws from the backer down into the girt either, but I am gonna do that. And on these, I just got to snug them in. Don't have to do anything special because it's already held in place pretty darn tight. It's not going anywhere. Okay, the backers are completely done. I think as I'm putting the panels in, if there's anything like that one's real good, that one's good. The majority of these are going to be good, but if there's any, I know there was at least one place with like a corner sticking out. I'm going to go over these, yeah, like right here. And that's because of a different thickness between this girt and this. And I believe the post behind there is uneven as well. So when you screw this to it, it's just going to conform to the post. Yeah, here's one right here. Big difference between the thickness of this one and this one. But I believe I would just take off that corner right there. So as I'm going along, I'll just put some pencil lines like that on there. Use a different pencil. And then kiss it with the belt sander just to flush things up. I'm only going to do it if it needs it. This doesn't need it at all. Yeah, it's not going to need it almost anywhere. But where it does, that's what I'll do. So the first panel will get part of it cut off on this side, and I'll have to do some routing and stuff on the back of it, or take my multi-tool. I don't know, I'll probably just route that, get rid of a little bit of material on the back so it sits flush. Oh, before I forget, while I was putting these in, I noticed that I had the lines for the top already there. I must have did that just before I quit working on this and started on the tiny house. So that's great news. I don't have to go through all that. I don't have anything that lifts it up to 8 feet, a little over 8 feet. So I have to rig stuff up to do it. And I would rather not do that. So I just have to snap a chalk line from my little mark there to the one over here, and all of the plywood panels are going to be shifted up to that. And when I do any measuring, I'll measure from there, or from that line down to whatever I have to measure for. I have to make a little door for the propane valve, and I got to do some notching for the electric there. And what else? Oh, and I have to get my water line through the wall. I'll show you all that stuff a little bit later, but there's going to be a fairly complex manifold that hooks up to that hydrant there. It's pretty interesting. You'll enjoy that. Okay, so that's it for the plywood backers. I'm not exactly sure what is going to be in the next video, if I'll be able to get a couple panels in or just one. I'm hoping to get a video from the corner there, at least past the window, so That's 4 full panels. Yeah, the hardest panels in the whole shop. At least these 3 are going to be pretty hard because I have to do the window framing as well. We'll give it a shot. I'll see you in the next video.